In this series, lowimpact.org and the Open Credit Network talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
Something you wrote on your website jumped out at me. For me, it's all about system change. So I want to get to know how what you're doing contributes to system change. And you wrote, I think I said earlier, we have in mind an operating system for a new economy. How do we get there? What do you mean by that? How do we get there?
Yeah, well, I tried to explain a little bit about what we might mean about that. Although that's going to be, that's going to be up to all the people who implement this stuff. How do we get there? Boy, wish I had that crystal ball. A lot of it is working on the details, and a lot of it is working with other people so that we can try to get on the same page, work together, kind of be pulling the same direction. And I don't know, I hope we have time to try to put some things in place. I suspect we don't, but I would rather try.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I feel as well, yeah. I mean, it sounds like what you're doing could allow networks of small local businesses, including co-ops and sole traders, to come together to get some of the benefits that large corporations have in their size and their reach. Is that right?
I think that is right. Want to try it in London?
Yes.
Let's do it.
But crucially, it also sounds like your work is to do with the real economy, i.e. People whose day involves producing useful products and services, rather than people whose day involves working out how to invest and speculate and lend and rent just to make more money.
That is true. We are very focused on use value, to use an old term, and on trying to build an economy where we kind of can collectively decide within our limits what we do need. That there's a lot of leeway there, right? So yeah, definitely that. It's pretty solidly anti-capitalist. You could not do this.
That was my next question. So if a new economy is not capitalism, what is it?
I don't know, and I hesitate to use any words that are going to freak anybody out or be able to be defined in 20 ways. But it's definitely not capitalism. I mean, that whole drive for expansion, as you just described, all the silly speculation and whatever, we can't afford that stuff.
I just heard on the radio that Green King, which is a brewery, used to be a small brewery in the south of England, has just been bought by a Hong Kong consortium who also own Superdrug, and they also own, I think, the 3 mobile phone network. So they're clearly not interested in making beer. They're not brewers.
Right.
The only reason they've done that is to make lots of money. And so
exactly.
I'm absolutely disinclined ever to drink Green King beer. I've done it before, but I'm not gonna drink Green King anymore. But lots of the small breweries, they start to get eaten up by the big conglomerates who are not interested in beer at all. They're just interested in money. I don't want to support them. I want to support small local breweries. But it's getting harder and harder and harder to find them. And I'm hoping that people like you can come up with systems which will allow small businesses to thrive instead of being pushed out by the corporate sector.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, let's see, beer versus money.
So I'm on the platform co-ops email list initiated by Nathan Schneider. I don't know if you are as well.
Not on the email list, but yeah, we know of him and have chatted briefly.
I don't comment very often, and when I do, it's about wider political issues rather than tech. But on that list recently, there's been talk about several ideas that are, in effect, blueprints for a new economy. I have a bit of a problem with that, with blueprints. It's usually one person working on their own, and then presenting a finished plan to a grateful world. And I just don't think that's going to work. The plans are usually 30 pages long, and no one's going to even read them. And we already have people building the new economy, community energy, community supported agriculture, free and open source software, REA accounting. There's lots of projects happening which together can constitute the new economy. And we're building the open credit network, and Matthew's building the credit commons.
Yeah.
So could your work dovetail with all these initiatives, including a moneyless economy, a mutual credit economy?
That is certainly the goal, and the model will certainly support that. So I sure hope so. I hope we can all kind of get our act together, and we love to work with people on the ground. That's kind of how we've done this anyway. And so, yeah, definitely. And I think maybe it was you or somebody in your crowd there in the UK was talking about getting people together who are thinking along these lines, and I would love to do that. I think it'd be really great to get us all, get some examples to compare, kind of hash out some details, see if we can kind of pull in the same direction. And anybody who wants to start something on the ground, totally,
Right, I've heard you.
Let's give it a shot.
I'm going to follow that up. I guess my question was about wealth concentration. If wealth concentrates, if wealth continues to concentrate, we can say goodbye to democracy, really.
Sure.
And as long as there's conventional money out there, how do we stop it concentrating? I can't think of any way to do that. And so mutual credit is a moneyless system. Could your work help to build things like reputation building? So mutual credit is based on trusted relationships. Is that something that could be accounted for?
Yeah, well, mutual credit itself can definitely be accounted for. It's resources. I guess you can consider mutual credit to be sort of like a currency, or you can consider it to be basically just accounting. Here's when all these different directions, you keep track of it through mutual credits. And I like mutual credit in that it kind of has these built-in constraints toward what you're talking about, people just building wealth forever. That would be difficult. So mutual credit is cool. It would be great if we could talk a little bit sometime about how to kind of integrate mutual credit and the production piece of the economy. Wouldn't it be great?
Conversation. I think that might be a conversation with one of our more technical guys, and I've got somebody.
Sure.
I've got somebody in mind for that conversation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because you can, wouldn't it be great to use some mutual credit to be able to get what you need to start up something? That usually takes a little bit of upfront.
Wouldn't it just
investment in resources? That'd be pretty cool.
Okay, see, I know exactly the person to get to talk with you. Also, I think more and more people are understanding now that banks create money from nothing.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to something that explains that in the description for people who don't know. But when you take out a mortgage for, say, 100,000, if the bank gives it to you, they didn't have that 100,000. They're not taking it from somewhere to give you. They just put it into your account, and they say that now you owe them 100,000 plus interest, and they account for it with double entry bookkeeping. Mm-hmm. They record your debt to them as an asset, and they record the 100K in your account as a liability, and they cancel each other out as if nothing's happened. And it sort of disguises the fact that they've just created £100,000 as debt from nothing. And this is the way money is created. But for me, it's fraudulent. The state lets them get away with it, but for me, it's absolutely fraudulent. And I read somewhere that your system replaces double entry bookkeeping. So would it kill that kind of zero reserve banking if it was implemented everywhere?
It would not have to. No, the system itself is pretty agnostic. It can be used for, whatever the name of your biggest bank is. And it can be used for, you know, things that are way more positive than your biggest bank and that are doing real things and creating useful things for people. So the system is fairly agnostic. That has to be people, you know, and their social relations changing and just getting rid of some of those opportunities, you know. So that's kind of at the level above REA.
Right.
You know, like mutual credit is an example that puts a bunch of limits on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. So how did you get into all this? How did you learn?
Well, I've sort of been an activist all my adult life. You know, I kind of came of age in the U.S. where we were going through the civil rights movement. We were in the Vietnam War. You know, there was the women's movement. There was a lot of stuff going on and a lot of people becoming politicized in my generation. So I've never lost that really. You know, at some point I ended up being a software developer, not right away, but soon enough. And so I got those skills, and I had that as a day job and raised a couple kids and, you know, et cetera, that sort of thing. And so I think those are skills that are useful to the movement in general. So yeah, here I am.
And what successes have you had so far?
I actually want to be fairly clear about that because a lot of your questions are sort of larger than we are right now, you know,
Yeah,
farther along. Yeah, so we've had kind of individual small successes. We've proved the model, I think. We have now gotten it into a vocabulary that will need improvement, but is a good basis to start creating software that can talk to each other and applications. You know, little ones, whatever. People can put all kinds of stuff together, which should give us a lot more flexibility. We are kind of right now just starting up several other projects that are committed to using value flows. So those are not showing results that you can see yet, you know. So that's not yet a success. Hopefully it will be and give us something to take from there. You know, I try not to get too personally attached because I don't, you know, this needs to be for the commons and it needs to be for everybody and, you know, it needs to be for young people and that kind of thing. So I feel like some of the ideas are taking hold. You know, we've had really interesting conversations with people on this round of projects, but you know, that's where we're at, going through those little spirals.
I guess, so how do you think you can communicate what you do to people working in the new economy? How can they incorporate it in their work?
I think right now there's some documentation on value flows, but I think right now a lot of it needs to be person to person, you know, and we need to work with people who want to do something more on the ground in the peer-to-peer economy. And hopefully we'll get past this stage, you know, but the more people learn about it, the better. We'd love to pass along some of this to younger people. You know, Bob and I are getting along on our years here. So yeah, that's a very good question.
There's got to be a legacy.
Yeah, it'll be a legacy system. No, you know, maybe we need to do more interviews with people like you. You know, I tend to sit in my computer and, you know, make software or, you know, make designs or whatever. But
so what's the most useful thing that I, for example, could do to help you spread your idea?
That might be more your department than my department. But, I think we ought to have a little chat about mutual credit and REA.
Yes.
And about what you're doing, and the small businesses and co-ops that you're working with. That would be might be productive.
Yes.
And we probably need to do more ourselves to just be doing that. But we're pretty focused on practice and getting some of this stuff working, on the ground with real groups. So
why would these real groups? What's the hook? Why would these real groups come to you? I will encourage people working on the ground to come to you. Why would they want to do that? What's the big sell? How do I?
The big sell. That is a good question. I think so one of the projects we're working on right now is with Holochain, and they have seriously bought into REA. This is how they want to conduct their economic activity in that, software environment. And I'm trying to think what some of the attraction was. Some of it was, this is accounting that can work for a networked economy. Some of it, it's people see its power once they start getting familiar with the model and they think about it in their terms. One of the groups that wants to do an application on Holochain is trying to hook together farmers and processors and restaurants, for example. When they see how that stuff flows and how everybody can see what it is, and you can see what's fair, and you can see what's coming, and you can see where everything came from and all that stuff, they go, ooh, it's going to be powerful stuff. So I don't know. I feel like that is working for people. Some people are really attracted to the fact that you can do a contributive economy with it, because if you have a record of
What do you mean by that?
I mean that you're going to reward people based on their contributions. And that's an attractive thing for some groups right now. People have all different kinds of ways they want to make things fair. Obviously, that doesn't work for the whole society because we have old people and we have children, etc. But the REA value flows model since it can keep track of everything that ever went into this as far back as you want to go, you can say, and this would work really well for open source software, which is not rewarded right now very well. But it works for anything, and if you get paid for something, everybody who contributed to that in any way can be found and get a piece of that based on, an agreed upon formula that you all have. So a lot of groups are attracted to that.
It sounds as though what you're doing would dovetail with mutual credit really, really well. Because, a lot of people don't have much money. A lot of people working to change the system don't have much money. But with mutual credit, we can all reward each other.
Mm-hmm.
I've found with mutual credit, trying to get people interested and bring people into mutual credit, focusing on their self-interest works much better than focusing on, hey, let's change the world. Unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. People say, yeah, that's a great idea, but they really can't be bothered to roll their sleeves up and actually do something.
Okay.
Even people who I think would be really, really early adopters. Some people have actually said to me, I'll do this when everybody else does it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to start doing this. Somebody's got to take the lead and start pushing it forward.
And that's definitely a problem, because all of this stuff needs some critical mass, It needs a network effect. It needs all of those things. So it is really, really hard to get going. And I think probably we do need to start with people who really get it and have that, let's do some good here before we kill ourselves kind of an attitude. So you know what? I don't know. That is a hard problem.
Difficult to find who those people are. I mean, I'm talking to people in the transition movement and people who go on Extinction Rebellion marches, and it's not them. They are not the early adopters. So it's an even smaller group within that group. So it's looking like self-interest is the best way to attract people. And
That's okay.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
has, I mean, it is self-interested because, once you figure out that your self-interest actually is the same as your collective interest,
yeah,
then you go, oh, well, okay, if I don't do this, I'll be
yeah.
in trouble. So, yeah.
Do you know about? I'm also interested in working on how to, as I said, connect different projects together. I'm talking with John Walker and Angela Espinosa. They
Yeah.
are using the viable system model.
VSN people. Yeah.
You know about VSM. What
Yeah.
do you think about it?
I think we would have a very interesting discussion and could find ways to connect some of that stuff up.
That's very interesting to hear you say that. I will talk to some people. That would be a very interesting conversation.
We had a conversation several years ago with some VSN group. I think they were working within maybe P2P Foundation, but I'm not positive. That ended up falling apart. One of the people was ill. Anyway, stuff happened, but we did go partway down that route, and it'd be really interesting to try it again.
So what's your ambition? What's next?
Next is to get through this current round of projects and see what that practice brings us. We're going to learn a lot about technical kinds of things, how to actually do these kinds of distributed systems. There's all kinds of ways people are trying to do that, and it hasn't shaken out, and we'll learn a lot more about, we'll get more tweaks to the REA value flows model. So I think we're in a round of practice, and that's where we're at. We've got to get through this stage. More people would be, great. We're not full up.
And what are the biggest obstacles you think you're going to face, or you are facing?
I think one is what we were talking about. Well, one is what you were just mentioning about, people understanding their interest and self-interest. But I think more immediate is probably, how do we figure out how to put all these people who are trying to do really similar things together and start being able to pull the same way a little more and make our compromises and have our discussions and stuff like that. That would be, I think, really helpful.
And so somebody watching this thinking, yes, great, I want to get involved. What do they do? They just contact you and say, okay, I'm interested in this. What can I do?
Sure. They could contact us. They could contact you, right?
Yeah.
Yep. You're trying to pull people together and create some synergies, and
I guess we're building a mutual credit network in the UK, but your work could be global, couldn't it? You could help people anywhere, and I guess
we do. We got people all over the place.
I guess it would be really good if you had a connected sort of mutual credit account, so people could pay you in mutual credit, and you could use that to spend back into this kind of economy to help other people with startups.
That would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
See if we could get enough of a critical mass to make some of that real.
I think.
I don't know. I mean, people getting funding, especially young people who actually need a full-time job, is continues to be challenging, as you are fully aware.
Very, yeah. And so what do you think the future holds? Is capitalism going to collapse? And will we have the infrastructure in place to allow people to get the things that they need when it does, if it does?
I suspect it will. It can't go on forever, and in the way it does, and it doesn't know how to do things differently. So in some way it will. Who knows what order things will happen, what pressures will come first, how climate will fit into all the sort of internal issues, as well as resource depletion and all that stuff. There's so many unknowns, but yeah, I expect it will. I hope we can, have enough things in place and have enough self-awareness to not just fall into complete chaos and, who knows, warlords, whatever, right?
Oh,
A lot of armies. I mean, so I don't know. I hope, Dave. I just, I don't know, and I wouldn't even venture a guess. But I think it's worth working on.
I think we need to continue this conversation, and so this interview was just a general introduction, and it's turned into quite a long one. I think I might have to split it into 3 parts.
Oh dear. Okay, sorry about that.
Don't apologize. Where can people keep up to speed with what you're up to? Have you got a blog, or what do they? How do they stay in touch with you?
Oh, we should have a blog probably. Yeah, we don't have good ways. People can contact us at Mikorizal. And we tried to kind of send out newsletters, but then we just never did. We're bad. So I don't know. We don't really have a good way, but if you get in contact with us, we'll kind of get people slotted in places that they would be interested or make sense for them or whatever. And we'll, see what kind of work people want to do.
So for introductory information, would people go to Value Flows or Mikorizal?
Depends on what they want to learn. Either one would be fine. Value Flows has a lot of explanation of the actual vocabulary in REA and that kind of stuff. Mikorizal is our sort of lame, out-of-date website that explains what all we're up to.
Okay, lame, out-of-date website.
I know. So we need to do better at this.
But
sorry.
Yeah, can I subscribe you to the non-corporate blog, and you can see other interviews with
sure. Yeah, and we're sort of all around in various chats. We're in the Fediverse and Social.coop and various places.
Yeah. Who else should I interview?
Oh, I probably know lots of people you could interview.
Tell me some.
I'll give it some thought. And
okay, lovely.
Send you some names.
And do you think REA accounting should be a low impact topic? We have 220 topics. We have an economics section. Do you think it should be a topic in itself?
It probably could be. I don't know. Send me the links and let me take a peek.
Okay.
What all you got going out there?
Okay.
And in cyberspace.
So I just interviewed somebody about commoning, and so
good.
Commoning is going to be a topic in the economy section. But we have all the usual suspects, community energy, platform co-ops, worker co-ops, housing co-ops, all that sort of fair trade. And I think maybe
REA would be good. Yeah.
Maybe it should be. Maybe
people are gaining interest. So yeah, why not?
In which case, I'll definitely speak to you again, because I'll be asking to interview you for a topic introduction. I could take some information from this interview, but yeah, I think we will definitely keep in touch.
Perfect.